topic of presentation is dynamics of the conformational transition of biomolecule from a theoretical perspective. We all know that protein are large complex molecules which play a very important and very crucial role in all the living organisms. Here the unfolded protein hold in the standard physiological condition under temperature, pressure, pH into the native state, and after when it is in the native state, it makes conformational change by varying the temperature, pressure, pH, and the mutation in the polypeptide chain, and it attains the misfolded structure. This misfolded structure may self-associate to form an aggregate which leads to the several neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and Huntington disease and ALS diseases. Now, this folded protein, misfolded protein, and the aggregated protein may be understood through this energy landscape theory, where the unfolded protein lie at the top of this funnel. This is the rugged type of energy landscape, and the misfolded protein and the native protein found at this global minima. In between these two states, this unfolded state and the native state, there are several non-local minima are present, which may contain the folding intermediate and the partially folded intermediate, which may call as a misfolded state of the protein. This misfolded protein may self-associate to form an aggregate, and these aggregates are much more stable than the native state. Means, if once this amorphous aggregate or this amyloid fibrils are the aggregate forms, it is very difficult to crack the potential energy barrier and reach it to the native state, and it leads to the neurodegenerative disorders. So here, any type of conformational transition in this energy landscape may be modeled in two-dimensional energy landscape, where at local equilibrium, all this multi-dimensional energy landscape is converted into two-dimensional energy landscape. And here we study the transition of this folded protein because it is very important. As the protein turnover mechanism fails, it leads to the protein aggregation diseases. So, by using molecular dynamics, Lenzing dynamics, and generalized Lenzing dynamics simulation, we study the conformational transition of amyloid beta, because amyloid beta is the principal component of the amyloid disease in the Alzheimer's patients. So, the basic difference between molecular dynamics, Lenzing dynamics, and the generalized Lenzing dynamics is that in the molecular dynamics we use this classical Newton's law of equation, but by considering the Brownian motion of the molecule in the solution, we may use this frictional term and this random term also. So this simple Newton's law first, Newton law second equation is easily converted to this Lenzing equation, where this Vt is the instantaneous velocity. Means we calculate the velocity at this point only where the molecule it is. It not calculate the velocity in the past. It did not remember the velocity of the past directions. But if we generalize this velocity in the past direction also, this equation we can easily convert it into this generalized dynamics equation, where we use the time-dependent frictional memory kernel, and by using this equation we use this generalized dynamics simulation. So, using these three, this is the simulation protocol of our MD, LD, and GLD simulation for the conformational transition of the amyloid beta into the misfolded state of the amyloid beta. From this simulation, we calculate the transmission coefficient, or simply we can say the rate of the transition coefficient by using the reactive flux formula. I am not going to detail of this formula, but here in this figure we can say that from the LD simulation, we can say that at t is equal to 0, initially the transmission coefficient gives the maximum value, which can see that at initial time there is no transition of the unfold to the misfold transition, but with increasing simulation time the transmission coefficient decreases as the unfolded protein converted to the folded state, and after a long time this transmission coefficient reaches to the 0 value. It means it is vanishes after a long time, but it is not true, because some studies say that after a long time there is some solid reaction is also works. The rate can't go to the 0. So to formulate this, we can use the generalized energy dynamics. Once theory is that at longer time this Lenzing dynamics is fail because of the at longer time the solvent portion doesn't work in the complex protein solvent interaction. So we use generalized energy dynamics simulation study, and here we can see that at very low value of the frictional coefficient gamma equal to 0.4 picosecond inverse, the transmission coefficient gives the maximum value, which means that there is no unfold misfold transition at very low value of the frictional coefficient. But with increasing value of the frictional coefficient, the transmission coefficient sharply decreases and attains the constant value, which indicates that the constant value of the rate. But for the higher value of the frictional coefficient like gamma equal to 5.0 picosecond inverse and 10.0 picosecond inverse are even more, the transmission coefficients monotonically decreases and did not reach the constant value, which indicates that there is no well-defined rate constant for the higher frictional coefficient and the presence of dynamic disorder in the system. To study the dynamics of the conformational transition of Himalaya beta, we calculate the potential of mean force from the simulation trajectory, and we can see that in the energy landscape we can see that two well separated minima are present. One denote the unfolded state and one denote the misfolded state. Here we can see that the conformational transition of Himalaya beta is rugged energy. We found the rugged energy landscape. We can say that the transition from unfolded to the misfolded state is occur in the heterogeneous manner. So, to calculate the dynamics of the conformational transition of Himalaya beta, we analyze the transition path in between the unfolded and the misfolded state. For this, we can randomly select two boundaries in between this unfolded and the misfolded state. This is XU and this axiom. Below the axiom, the unfolded proteins are present, and above the axiom, the misfolded proteins are present. But in between these two boundaries, the conformation of Himalaya beta is present as it enters from one direction and exits from one direction. And by calculating the number of transition in between this axiom and XU, means in between the transition path, we can calculate the transition path time distribution. And here we can see that from the LD simulation, initially the transition path time distribution high. This means that initially the misfolded protein converted, initially the unfolded protein converted to the misfolded protein. That's why this distribution is high. But after a certain time, the transition is less, means protein going to misfold, and we get the lower distribution. And after a very long time, this distribution becomes less, it tends to 0. This indicates that all the conformation and the misfolded protein reset to the all unfolded protein reset to the misfolded state. Similarly, in geometric simulation, we also get the same trends, and our simulation, we can fit our simulation with the some experimental and theoretical results and calculate the energy and the conversion of the protein. Here we can say that energy is very high. This indicates that once it crosses the barrier, it is very difficult to reach the unfolded state. And we also calculate the LD simulation with varying transition path time distribution with varying value of the gamma. Higher the value of gamma, higher the interaction, and we get the high distribution of the protein. We also calculate the mean transition path time. It is the time in between when the conformation of Himalaya beta lie in these two boundaries. So here we can see that as the length decreases, this time is decreases, as we can see that from the mean blood pressure time. And we also calculate the unfolding pathway of the adenine ribosylate from the assembly simulation by fixing this residue, this atom of the, and by constant pulling at 3 prime, and we can study the conformational transition of the adenine ribosylate. This is the unfolding pathway of the ribosylate septamer, and we get the 5-state transition from the adenine ribosylate septamer. As each state is denoted by the rate, initial state is denoted by the rate limiting state, and followed by all the states. So this is the conclusion of our talk. This is the Lenzing, we study the Lenzing and analyze the dynamic simulation and compare it Kramers and Grote-Heinz state theory. And initially at t is equal to 0, there is no transition of the protein from the folded state to the folded state, but in the early simulation we get the well-defined rate constant, and the transition path time reveals that at low friction coefficient the distribution is low, for the high friction coefficient the distribution is high, and we also calculate the mean first passage time with varying length of the transition path time. Thank you.
So, Vishal, I think you have dealt with a subject, which is just requires a lot of mathematical background. Yeah, I'm not sure how many people in the audience would understand the equations that you have shown. I'm not saying that what you have done is not good. I mean, it is very good. But maybe you may be knowing the equations, or I may be knowing the mathematics behind it. But what I can only tell is just give a small comment on the presentation in general.
Okay.
So, for example, you used a word called transmission
coefficient.
Transmission coefficient. So, what is transmission coefficient?
Transmission coefficient actually gives the rate. Actually, from the transition state theory, this is the till now only one parameter, means people more study is the transition state theory.
So, the problem that I want to highlight over here is, in order to explain something, you suddenly brought in transition state theory.
Okay.
Right.
From the side point of view, we can say that it's just a way.
Break it down into smaller parts. See, at the end of the day, we are not interested in what the mathematical equation is. Right? But what your analysis is essentially telling us in terms of what is that question that you have been able to address in the general problem of protein folding and disproportion. So that message was not really very clear. One. And second thing is that, you have published it in ACS Omega, right? So definitely it has to be of that standard, otherwise it will not be published. Right? So I have no problem with your publication and your work. The question is that when you send this message out that this is what I have done and this is why it makes sense, you have to craft your way through your presentation that is convincing. For example, let's say you showed a lot of graphs and you showed your citation also. But there are other citations as well. So I was, as a listener, was confused. What part of this is being cited for somebody else's article, and what is it your statement relates to your article? So there was a lot of, you were going in one wavelength, but we were not receiving it. So that's what I don't know what.
Similar kind of comments I would like to make. All these studies, you're only dealing with some software. What is the input?
No, but this is mathematics plus software. But we derive the mathematics according to we modulate the theory and perform the simulations.
Yeah, so the question is that when you see a mathematical equation, forget about the equation. The mathematical equation actually telling you something.
Yes.
What is it that it is saying? For example, if you look at mass into acceleration.
Newton's law.
So physically, am I able to relate? You have a ball, you apply a force and it gets accelerated. So you have to tell the physical meaning of what that mathematical equation is telling us. Otherwise, it will take all.
But it takes time to say.
So what was suddenly you brought in some random switches over there?
Means this conformational transition of the biomolecule. First we study the conformational transition of the protein, amyloid beta. After that we study the conformational transition of the riboswitches, which is 5-state transition. It gives a more clear picture about, because proteins are mostly the 2-state transition. Unfolded or folded, or the folded, is folded, is 2-state transition. But in biomolecule we can see that even in the hairpin also we can see that mostly the 3-step process. So determination of the rate is very difficult. Which state we have to choose? So according to this, that means we use the rate thinking step to calculate the rate and all those things. Means depending upon the biomolecules, the conformational transition changes, even in the pores also.
Okay, thank you.
Are you just making the models, or you're trying to implement those into the basically disease violation or any violation models.
Yes.
Are you trying?
Yes, yes. And first means from the beta amyloid, we simulate this beta amyloid in the misfolded state and we want to grab the information from the transition state, from how it is going to the misfolded state.
So what is the information that you were being listed?
Means rate, in the rate, it means if the through the rate, if the frictional coefficient is less, then the rate will be slow. When the frictional coefficient high, it going to the means is partly going to the one way to the another way, means the misfolded state. Means it depends on the rate and the frictional coefficient.
Same is a question about the heptamers people are making. Heptamers?
No.
No. The means
Heptamers.
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 Yes.
We are not wearing, we just take the heptamers from the RCSP PDB data bank. And we simulate these heptamers.
So the work software simulation or you go for the applications or that or not?
No, first we do the simulation, after that we go to the application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal.